Hi everyone, Shane R. Monroe here. Today, we're going to be talking about the serial port on the Commodore 64, maybe what these guys might be for, and a ton more good stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around.
Let's go into the Monroe world.
So we're going to talk about the serial bus today. If you already know all about the serial bus, then you might want to skip ahead to the timestamp on the screen right now. For the rest of the folks that maybe aren't super familiar with it, we're going to talk about this for just a couple minutes. So on the back of the Commodore 64, this actually happens to be a real Commodore 64 versus the C64 Ultimate that's down here, but they both have a serial port. This is a 6-pin plug, and here's a cable that you can see here. This plugs right on in. And when it's called a serial port because it works in serial. In other words, you plug that serial port into a device, and that device can plug into another device, which can plug into another device, and so on. So it was very common for someone to have a Commodore 64, plug it in through a serial cable into the 1541 or a disk drive, and then that would actually go to another drive, right? So here you can see my Ultimate's plugged into this 1541 too. There's another port right here. I could plug this guy in, and it passes through to this cable that I could then plug into the 1571, which could then daisy chain into a printer, for example. So serial's pretty cool. I mean, it's serial, so it just hops off of each other. And typically speaking, the common Commodore 64 person might have a drive, maybe 2 drives, and a printer. You can have 5 devices on the serial port at any given time. So 4 drives and a printer, for example, like if you had a big GEOS setup and you had 4 GEOS drives and you had a printer. So that's kind of how it worked. Now, you'd think that 5 devices would be enough for anyone, but it's not necessarily a matter of how many devices you can have, but how many you can use at the same time. Now, back in the day, this is a modern recreation of something from back in the day, which was a 2-to-1 switch box. And these are just like pass-throughs. So it doesn't matter if you're going 1-to-2 or 2-to-1, this switch will control the flow of the serial port between here. And if you're in the middle here, it's just shut off. So let's say that the Commodore 64, let's say that it's plugged in here. Now, the Commodore 64 can accept 2 devices. Maybe you've got 2 1541s, or maybe you've got a 1571 and a 1541, right? Or maybe you have 2 drives that are both drive 8. Who knows? There's a number of different deals you could do. You could take 2 Commodore 64s, like I happen to have right here, and you could plug this guy into this Commodore 64, right? So now I've got 2 Commodore 64s. Get out of there. Right? Each Commodore 64 can plug into the box, and they can share a single floppy drive. There you go. You get the idea. And so now, when this Commodore 64 needs the drive, I flip it here. When the other one needs it, I can flip it over here. This is not unusual. This was not an unusual setup. Probably thinking, gosh, nobody ever did anything like that. Oh, that's not true at all. A friend of mine, his wife and himself both had a Commodore 64. And so they would share a drive, or they'd share a printer. Why the hell are we talking about this? Because if you've got a Commodore 64 Ultimate, maybe you have a drive, maybe you have 1 drive, maybe you have a printer, but for the most part, the Commodore 64 Ultimate is sort of a standalone device. What would you need something like this for? Well, the reason I bought this to begin with is because if you know about the Commodore 64 Ultimate, you know that essentially it's designed to be running its own internal virtual drives, drive 8 and drive 9, right? So it's drive A and B, 8 and 9. If you put another device on the serial bus that has the same number assigned to it, so let's say this is drive 8 and you've got a drive 8 in here. Even if this is off, they can conflict. The serial bus does not like to have 2 items on the bus at the same time with the same ID, whether they're on or not. Now maybe you're starting to understand why I wanted one of these. So I saw one of these and I thought, hey, wait a minute. So it's that way or that way, but there's also a switch in the middle. So this means nothing goes through. So what if I grabbed one of these and I plugged my drive into this? So this, in my case, I'd only be using 1 drive. So I'd be plugging this in here, plugging that in there, and then I'd plug the 64 into this. And when I wanted this drive to be functional, I could turn it on. Meanwhile, I could turn it off and then not have to worry about changing any configurations in here. Because you could go in here and I could take drive A and move it to device 10. You could do that. Or there's actually a way inside the config, buried deep in there, where you could actually take and say, just don't pay attention to anything external, just pay attention to the internal. If you do a little bit of that flip-flopping around, you can do this with software, but I'm a hardware kind of guy. I thought it'd be cool to keep this whole thing set up, and then when I needed to, turn it on. That's it, right? Or turn it off most of the other time. This one even has a reset switch to send a reset signal to the drive, so that's kind of cool. So I bought this to be a kill switch. This was going to be my kill switch for my, at the time it was my 1541, but now I got these other drives out here. This was going to be a kill switch. So I reached out to the guy that made this and said, hey, you know, you could probably break this down into a one-to-one deal with just a switch on it. And I bet you could sell these things because people would love to have a kill switch. And he's like, consider it done. And here it is. So he made this little guy, and it's literally the perfect solution for plugging this hardware device into a software serial bus where you can just shut it off when you don't need it. Now, you don't have to unplug cables, right? If you watched my early videos, you saw me plugging and unplugging the serial cable and everybody gave me a bad time. Now I don't have to do that. I can plug everything in and just shut it off when I don't need it. So that's pretty cool. So this is what my friend Brett over at Vintage Computer Festival gave to me while I was there. And of course, I paid for this guy that he shipped me ahead of time. See, they both have reset buttons. Pretty cool, right? So this is neat. So if you need a kill switch, and you know if you do because you've had 8 on the same serial bus, and you'll know that it interferes. It doesn't interfere all the time. It's sort of like fights for the bus. Sometimes the hardware will take it. Sometimes the software will take it. This little guy just makes sure there's no hardware at all in there. So that's really, really cool. But while I was there, oh, by the way, I'm gonna have a link in the description down below. He'll sell you one of these. So I'm not just showing you stuff you can't buy. There'll be more of those videos coming up later. But yeah, you'll be able to get these right now. Take a look in the description down below, and we'll get you an eBay listing where you can pick these guys up. Now, these serial cables, kind of bulky. So now I've got 3 cables here, a switch box. It's all kind of messy. So something that Brett showed me, and he actually let me take it home, which is crazy. So this box has to be built from scratch. It's probably not super expensive, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. Look at this. There's actually like real screws in here. Wouldn't it be cool if this was available like on Amazon? You could just pick one up for dirt cheap because it's mass produced, right? That'd be cool. You could have a switch box or a kill switch that would allow you to have something maybe a little small. This is bulky right here. That's just a bulky ass solution. So Brett was very excited to show me. He told me I could share it with you, even though you can't have any yet, or maybe you will by the time the video comes out. He has another solution. What if, my friends, this were the switch box? Hey now. Well, damn, that's pretty cool. That's a little tiny guy. Yeah, this is an over-the-counter. When I say over-the-counter, I mean mass-produced. You could go to Amazon right now and buy one of these. It's like, dude, I don't see you plugging any serial ports in there, my friend. No. All right, well, okay. So maybe you get an adapter, right? Oh, no, 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 no. Genius knows no bounds. Here's what Brett's working on. Ta-da! Look at this little guy. So it's got a pass-through serial. How cool is that? And it basically takes the pins you need into this little 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch jack for us Americans, and you plug it in. And you plug it in. Look at that. And so you can plug in 2 drives, right? Or 2 printers or whatever you want. So now I've got the 1541 or 1541-2, the 1571, and I need one more cable to actually plug it in to my Commodore 64. Now I can flip between them. Need this one, need that one. There's some cool use cases for this. Now, how would you use this as a kill switch? B is your drive. You don't need the second drive. And when you're switched to A, it's killed. You need 2 of these little guys in the switch box, and you've got a kill switch. And let's be honest, it's a little more, I don't know, I guess maybe it's not a lot less bulky, but it's well, certainly cool anyway. Now, one thing that you do need to know about these solutions, so if they are available in the future, this guy actually has the wiring for all 6 pins. Now, you really don't need all 6 most of the time, right? I think if I remember right, and I'll get corrected down below, I think this does 4. You only need 4 for regular operation. If you want to have like a Commodore 128, if you want to use like that burst mode, you need to have all the pins through. This one does that. Pop it open and you'll see that all the pins go through. This one, no. So if you wanted to use it for a 128 or for, you know, like burst mode or whatever, you're going to have something that's designed for it. This right now, so far, will only do enough pins to make it work for like a Commodore 64. I almost feel like we should probably wire this up so you can see it, because this almost doesn't look like it should work. Let's do that. Why not? All right, we're down to the bare bone basics here. We have your Commodore 64 Ultimate, we have one cable, and we have the box. So we'll plug this into the Commodore 64. We'll plug this into the box as, what's it selected to now? We'll set this to A. And of course, we'll need a cable to pass through on the middle. Get in there. Get in there. And then we'll plug this into the 15. These ports are a little wonky. There we go. All right, so now we are selected on A. Let's shut this off. Boop. We'll turn this drive on, right? And then we'll turn this on. If you were to try to get drive 8, you pressed F1, that didn't come on. I was trying to get to the internal drive, right? Because this is shut off. This is on B right now. If I turned it to A and I tried to get a directory, look, it's trying to get the directory from here because this drive 8 lost to this drive 8. Does that make sense? So if you wanted to load something off of the internal drive, it might work, or it might try to load it from here. This time it worked. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's a real pain in the butt. Now, again, like I said, you could go and even turning it off doesn't matter because they're both still on the bus. You could, however, go in here and actually move it, right? So we could take drive A and move it to device 10. Now it wouldn't interfere. So if I were to reset this guy, and I can put a disk in here for fun, I'll put in my Maverick disk. There you go, Maverick is there. Now, I can shut it off. No device found. That's really cool. This is the greatest kill switch ever. Look how little this guy is. I could almost like mount it to the side of the 64 or something, or put it right here. And I could just kill the device when I didn't need it. I mean, again, if you turn it off, it doesn't matter. It's still on the bus. So this is really cool. This is a really neat little elegant solution. Again, instead of needing, where'd that box go? So instead of this big monster box, you got this nice little succinct box. It's little guys, nice and small, little tiny. You don't have these big giant cables coming out. This is a neat little solution. I don't know if and when he will have these cables available. I almost don't even need the pass-through, right? I just need this part. And how cool would that be? Just this piece of the cabling? You just need this. That's it. I mean, yeah, this is cool to have as a, pass-through thing, but screw that. I just need this little guy. This little guy and these, these little guys and this little guy, and I've got a nice kill switch for my drive. Again, go look in the description, go to eBay, get yourself one of these little kill switch guys. If, remember, you have to have enough serial cables to make that happen, right? You're gonna need an extra one. Or if you're gonna get like a real switch box, you're gonna need 2 of them. Yeah, go to eBay, get yourself one of these guys, support Brett. He's doing cool stuff like this little bit. We gotta support the hobbyists that are keeping the fun in our hardware. So that's gonna do it for me. Please like, subscribe, hype the video if you can. I know you guys get like 3 hypes a week. Please consider hyping my video. Helps out with the algorithm and keeps folks able to see and find these videos. So appreciate that. All right, that's it for me. I'm Shane Armentrout. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.